Netanyahu won the war, so why does Israel look weaker than before? For 20 years, Benjamin Netanyahu warned the world that Iran was Israel's greatest existential threat. Then the war finally came. Israel struck deep inside Iranian territory. The United States joined the campaign. Regional escalation seemed inevitable, and yet, after a month of fighting, Iran still stands. So what exactly did Israel gain? In modern Israeli history, few wars have been prepared as long as the confrontation with Iran. And few have ended with so little political return. After years of warnings about an existential threat, theatrical presentations at the UN, intelligence dossiers waved before the world's media, and sustained pressure on successive American presidents to wage war on Tehran, Israel's campaign against Iran has closed with a vague ceasefire, and an uncomfortable question: what exactly did Israel achieve? The short answer: truly little. The longer answer: a structural strategic failure. A war promised as a historic turning point. Benjamin Netanyahu never treated Iran as a routine adversary. For 2 decades, Tehran has not merely been an external threat in his political narrative, it has been the organizing axis of Israel's entire security doctrine. In that logic, war with Iran was not a policy choice, it was a historical necessity. Israel believed the campaign would trigger internal unrest in Iran, cripple the nuclear program, weaken the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's core, or, in the most optimistic scenario, catalyze regime change. None of this happened. Even earlier, the American intelligence community had described predictions of internal revolt in Iran as farcical, a judgment that now looks closer to reality than Israel's expectations of a short and decisive campaign. Tactical success, strategic failure. In purely military terms, Israel and the United States inflicted considerable damage on Iran. But modern wars are not measured by targets destroyed. They are measured by whether the adversary changes strategic behavior. Iran did not. The regime survived, the Revolutionary Guard stay intact, highly enriched uranium stockpiles were not seized, regional deterrence ability persists. The central paradox of the war is this: by surviving, Tehran partially succeeded. In asymmetric warfare between a sanctioned regional power and 2 of the world's largest military actors, survival itself is victory. When Washington stopped at the edge, if Netanyahu expected the United States to go further, he miscalculated. Donald Trump, after issuing escalating threats, halted precisely at the most dangerous threshold, deploying ground troops. This was not restraint born of strategic caution, it was political arithmetic. A ground war in Iran would have been extraordinarily expensive, globally destabilizing economically, deeply unpopular with American voters, potentially presidency-defining in the worst way. Washington did not want another Iraq, for times larger. Israel thus discovered that even a wartime alliance with the United States has limits, the moment Israel was excluded from the table. For a country accustomed to shaping Washington's Middle East agenda, being sidelined in ceasefire decisions was a strategic shock. Opposition leader Yair Lapid described it as an unprecedented political disaster. What matters is not merely the content of the ceasefire, it is the structure of power behind it. Israel no longer controlled the tempo of escalation in the war it helped start. The IRGC, weakened, or legitimized. One of the campaign's central goals was weakening the Islamic Revolutionary Guard's core, yet history often moves in the opposite direction. From Iraq after 1991 to Russia after 2022, regimes under external pressure often appear with strengthened security institutions. Iran may now be following the same trajectory. War tends to combine internal legitimacy, expand military authority, accelerate rearmament, justify nuclear deterrence doctrine. A campaign designed to weaken the IRGC may instead have entrenched it. Lebanon, a familiar strategic error. If Iran did not collapse, Israel shifted attention to Lebanon. But Hezbollah is not Hamas, it is a force that has historically drawn Israel into prolonged terrain-based conflict. Efforts to set up a new security zone risk repeating a long-standing assumption that territorial control produces lasting security. Israel's own experience in Lebanon suggests otherwise. The erosion of the U.S.-Israel consensus, the most consequential fallout of the war lies in Tehran, but in Washington. For decades, Support for Israel formed a near-automatic bipartisan consensus in American politics. That consensus is now visibly eroding. Strikingly, opposition appears from both extremes, progressive Democrats and the MAGA right. When a foreign policy alignment faces simultaneous resistance from both poles of American politics, it often signals a structural shift rather than a temporary disagreement. When war does not remove the existential threat, Netanyahu built much of his political career on a single promise, that he alone could prevent Iran from becoming an existential nuclear danger to Israel. After the war, what changed? Not much. Iran still enriches uranium, its political structure is still intact, its deterrence posture survives. If the purpose of war were to alter Iran's strategic status, the campaign failed. The return of the Obama framework. Ironically, post-war U.S.-Iran negotiations are drifting closer to something resembling the nuclear framework negotiated under Barack Obama, the very agreement Netanyahu spent years trying to undermine. War did not produce a new regional order, it merely returned the Middle East to its starting point, at a far higher cost, a once-in-a-generation opportunity lost. One detail is easily overlooked: this may have been Israel's only realistic opportunity to conduct a sustained campaign against Iran with full American backing. That opportunity has now passed. Washington is unlikely to provide the same level of support again soon, and Netanyahu is unlikely to get another attempt. The final question: for what is Netanyahu now? In Israeli politics, Netanyahu's authority has long rested on a strategic claim, that he understands Iran better than anyone else. But after Gaza, Lebanon, Iran, first round, Iran, second round, repeated promises of total victory have steadily dissolved. Leaders can survive military setbacks, they rarely survive the collapse of their strategic narrative. The question increasingly being asked inside Israel is no longer how dangerous Iran is, it is this: if war with Iran changed nothing, what exactly is Netanyahu still offering voters?